Okay. Okay, so I just pressed record. So I actually was hoping to go to the YMCA today, after my ballet class. And hopefully I'll still go, but it's snowing outside, it's cold, it's hard to be on the bus in this type of weather. So I think I've just prolonged it. I'm just going to have to, it's still going to be bad, I guess, but, yeah. Um, was that my stomach? Hope not. Um, but basically, I wanted to talk today about like there's a lot happening, and a lot of stuff. There's a lot of personal things I could say, but I don't really see the point right now. But I don't really have a precedent for anything I'm doing. So most of me thinks nothing will come to pass, nothing will happen. Um, and there's a small fraction of a 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 part of me that is holding on to the possibility. So, you know, if we look at that data, that way of being is kind of dumb. But also, if you look at, there's things that happen that are very unlikely, and hence the idea of the black swan theory, which I'd like to read that book. Um, I really like things like that, like Outliers. I don't know if you've read that, but that's a really great book too by Malcolm Gladwell. And after dance class in DuPont Circle, which I would go to at Howard after in between classes, like before interpretation class, because that was usually around like 11 or 1. So I had time to go to a dance class in the morning. And next to the dance class was a bookstore. And so I would just sit down and read books for a little bit. And that's kind of how I learned about Outliers and how I learned about the tipping point. But anyway, back to the point. So I just wanted to share some good memories from Marbut Elementary. I am not going to talk about my trigger warning abuse experience, the impact on me. And again, these are pretty selfish. These videos are pretty selfish. And I always fear that I am, a narcissist, which is always possible, right? So that'll be something to probably just learn more about. Not probably, I do need to learn about these different mental health things. But let me go ahead and start. I want to share the good memories. So I want to just kind of maybe gloss through them because I want to go ahead and get to other things before I have to leave and go to the YMCA again. Because yeah, I got to work on. I'm going to be playing. The character's name is Beth from Little Women, so I got to get myself right, so to speak. All right, so. And then in other videos, maybe I would like to talk about a lot of stuff. I didn't realize that I am this politically minded, but I am. So, and I really, yeah, I am. I am. Yeah, and I know this has no sheets. I know y'all are judging me for this. And I realized that there was a spell growing up where we slept on the floor a lot. Yeah. I think some of these things are holdovers from me kind of being used to existing in a state of lack. But I do have another sheet that I use as a sheet, but it's not a literal sheet. So I'm actually in process actually. But now it's not made or anything. So, okay, but let's go ahead and get started. I'm on age 0 through now, and I am on age 11 right now on my expressive blogging for healing purposes. So that's where Marbut Elementary comes into play. That's why I'm saying this. So I realized that I make these videos in order to process things for myself, and people sometimes end up being a part of that process. And I still do technically in the depths of my soul want followers, but then I also know that, again, things are not supposed to be for me, work out for me. So also I know in the depths of my soul that I am not supposed to be the one that succeeds. That's possibly you or someone else, That's genuinely what I observe and what my lineage has messaged me, and actually there's proof that shows that of us flatlining and not reaching potential. So let's go ahead and get started. So for Marbut, I really enjoyed the time capsule project where we dug up a hole in the ground and put a time capsule with different mementos from 1997 and or maybe 1998 or maybe 1996. Those were the years I went there. And what I really liked about that was that we were looking at ourselves as people from both the present, the past, and the future all at one time. And this is the type of school Marbut was. It was just a multi-dimensional experience, a holistic experience. I think that even encapsulates what I feel that what the experience was for me. It was just like, you know, safe fireworks all over the place in my just very like intellectually stimulating. It was just amazing. Okay, field trips. We visited Lake Lanier a lot, so maybe I'll share the story of Lake Lanier. I know that many people know, but I almost even drowned in this lake, which in learning the history of being built on top of a black neighborhood, I'm not surprised that I could have drowned. And this lake was actually known for people not living, dying on this lake. All throughout my childhood, there was always something on the news about somebody dying on Lake Lanier. And so now I realize that it's because there's so many souls that were not at rest. So it's an energetic zone that the energy has not been freed because of the harm that was done. Okay, there's Fernbank. I love the Fernbank Planetarium. 16th Street Baptist Church. We did a field trip to Birmingham and we visited this church where the 4 little girls were killed by, like, I actually need to learn a lot more about civil rights. And this was just something that was a part of the curriculum. So these are things I am learning and carry. It's not like it was like a history lesson. It was our lived experience lesson to do a field trip and learn about these things. So there's certain things that are built into my experiences, but there's a lot that I have to learn. So I don't know who was responsible for their deaths, but it was really sad to be 10 and walk through the church and learn about what each little girl was doing when the bomb went off, and to see kids being sprayed with fire hoses and things. Yeah, it's pretty messed up. It's pretty amazing to connect as young kids to the past. And really at that point, it was only 30 some odd years prior, which, I'm more than 30 now. And that's really, I can remember when I was 11, right? So that past was really not that distant at all. Okay, next, NASA. We visited a NASA area in Huntsville, Alabama, which that was really great because it helped cultivate my science brain, and helped cultivate our science brains. And we got to learn about astronauts. And I think that was when I learned about this ice cream called Dippin' Dots. If anybody has tried those or knows those, that's a reference for me for childhood. I loved that experience visiting the NASA Center. Washington, D.C. We visited Washington, D.C., visited the monuments and Smithsonian museums. Again, the Air and Space Museum, just amazing. I loved it. And the Natural History Museum. And this was before, like, the African American and Native American museums existed. Okay, Tybee Island, loved that. The marsh area, learned about baby sea turtles, lived in the cabins or whatever they would be called. But the dormitories, like, I love this. Visiting the wetland and looking at bacteria under a microscope. So we would collect samples from the wetland attached to the school property, and we would just do a class lesson by visiting the wetland, putting them on a slide, putting a drop of water on the slide, and putting the slide under the microscope and looking under the microscope. I mean, really, who invented the microscope? All of these beautiful things that have been created and invented to better society. in the ideal case, better society, because as we all know, science has been used to harm society in many different ways, right? Um, but for a person that has the soul to better society, this is what this can be. All right, so having a meaningful connection with children I went to school with and lived in the same neighborhood with. So it's a lot easier to go to school with people that you also play outside with. And this is what this experience was for me. Where later I would have the opposite experience, which is why it was so difficult. But this actually made it feel like a homegrown educational experience where black intellect was homegrown. And yeah, I will never forget this. Never, because it really was something that was very unique that can't really be, you can't really it was unique. It was unique. Okay, the colors purple and gold were the school colors, and it was really great because those are pretty colors together. And as a kid, I've always kind of enjoyed different colors together. It would do like plastic string, or the type of yarn with for friendship bracelets. Some people would call them lanyards, but I would call them plastic string. I felt like more white people use the term lanyards. I feel like I use the term plastic string, but yeah. Where were we? Yeah, so like it'd be colors like blue and pink, purple and red. Just certain colors looked nice together. And I, as a kid, because of things like that, I would really be into color combinations. Okay, so safety patrol. I enjoyed being a safety patrol. I enjoyed being a presenter one morning with another kid interviewing the architect that built the school. Um, yeah, it was built by an architectural firm called like R.L. Brown and Associates, and the architect was R.L. Brown that we interviewed. And even now, I think back to this and think, wow, could I be an architect, right? Having this experience and seeing a black architect. And of course, he's a male, so there is the gender difference. And also at the same time, um, that still helps me to think something like that is possible for me. Okay. So winning the fifth grade spelling bee and missing the word chronic. So I thought chronic had no H. I didn't know it had an H. And so when the buzzer went off, because I won the school spelling bee, but I lost at the county level for this word. And so it was very sad. It was very depressing. And, I just wanted to win like the girls that won. And later I learned that there was a black girl that did win the national spelling bee some years ago. And she's African American ADOS from Louisiana, I think. So, a black girl did realize the dream I wanted. But kudos to her because that is an amazing accomplishment. Um, so, all right, next, coming in third is terminology spelling bee. And I have a memory attached to that, so maybe I can include that in my other video that I'll have to make on, trigger warning essay. But all of this is interwoven. This is what my girl/woman experience is. Having to have these things sit side by side. I'm not going to compartmentalize my life for your comfort. Like, if you want to be here, be here, and if not, you cannot be. Okay, so coming in third in the medical terminology spelling bee. So yeah, that was good too. I missed the word braille. I thought braille was Brail. And I remember after a couple of the people that were like giving the words, they were like, "Oh, we were waiting for you to keep going and you just stopped." I remember that's what the the black girl/woman had said at the end. She was like saying like, "We thought you were going to keep going." And yeah, but yeah, that was a sad time too, but I still came away with third place. So I didn't completely lose. I still got third place because that was when the kids that had spelled all of the words right that we had learned in the booklet went on to the next level to be able to spell words that we didn't learn or practice. So we were spelling words from what people gave us, and we didn't have any time to practice these words. We didn't even know these words. So, okay. So riding MARTA with my mom, that was also my mom didn't like riding the bus. I mean, she didn't like driving, so we rode the bus and train everywhere. So yeah, and I'm still working on a car years later, so hopefully I can get this, in the right direction. But I know that was hard for my mom. She still instilled a lot of good things in me. But then there's a lot of other things I can share too. All right, so visiting my father at Tri-Cities High School, and that's where he was teaching around that time period. Excuse me, and he taught within the Atlanta public school system. So there's just a lot of different schools where he taught. Um, and this was one, and he taught science. So he taught, like, would teach biology, physics, chemistry. And I now realize that this is where the science influence comes from, I think. And then for my mom, that's where my math influence comes from. So math and letters, like, she's almost finished law school but didn't finish. Um, so there's a she went to business school. So there's a lot happening, and then my father, I'll share also in the next video. So yeah, so yeah, I could say more. We'll say that in the next video. So visiting the Atlanta Fulton Public Library downtown. I really liked that library because it was like the big main library for the city. All right, wearing culottes to school for the uniform. I remember my father would use the term culottes, and that's the first time I was introduced to that word. But we would have to wear like these plaid uniform pants that were not exactly capris, and they were not exactly shorts. So I guess the word for them would be culottes. Okay, then also different school projects, patterns in math, science fair first place. Oh, I won a grand prize, and this boy named K, I'll just say that, that's the first letter. He won grand prize. And he deserved grand prize because his project board was very beautiful. And mine looked like not as good as his. So I understood that his was better, he deserved it, and that still breaks me up because I think, gosh, my gender had something to do with this. Maybe I'm not, maybe that's my max capacity is first place and not grand prize, you know? Okay, almost drowning in Lake Lanier, I talked about that. Learning about plate tectonics and types of volcanoes, learning about types of bridges. Yeah, Miss N, this is the teacher's name for science. I loved the book. It was such a pretty book. You know how if you have a pretty book, it just makes you want to learn even more. So yeah, this is a pretty book. Plate tectonics and all of these things were fun to learn about. Okay, reading summer reading. Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, Fahrenheit Fear 451, A Wrinkle in Time. So we had to read these books before we got back to school. And that was just a way for them to keep us engaged and in the scholar mindset. And yeah, and we'd also get a planner, each kid, so that we could write our assignments out for each class. All right, and then also Never Ending Story, which that was a book that I had won for something. And in getting that book, I got to choose from a set of books in a cardboard box, and that was the one that I chose because it was so big and it just looked, and the cover looked really nice. Which, as a kid, I actually judged books by their cover. Like, I literally judged books by their cover all the time. If you're in the library and the book cover looks nice, I got it. I don't understand that saying sometimes. I mean, if you're advertising to children, you want something to look nice and shiny and fun. And obviously, as time progressed, I guess I didn't do that as much, but I liked the books that looked pretty. Okay, what's the last couple of things? Excuse me, I need to move this so I can see my computer. Okay, Kwanzaa Celebration School Program. So that was cool. We learned about the 7 principles of Kwanzaa. I don't remember exactly how many, but I remember really enjoying this performance because we would talk about it and the song was like, it's a Kwanzaa celebration. I don't remember the lyrics, but we would talk about Umoja, Nia, then Kuji Chagalia, self-determination. So that was one of the lyrics to the song. I remember that. So we performed it in front of the assembly. And that's it. And then I'm going to talk about the attack on my girlness, so essay, which I talk about it here because I never really got support from anybody that I shared with and opened up to. And I realized that in rewiring and in talking about this, making these videos, it's an attempt to be able to own my story in a way that it was given to me at this age. And understand a patriarchal structure that even when I was 10 was already at play to silence me. And And so I'm trying to work through that, trying to find words for these things. But I am in the matrix. I'm never escaping it. But what I can do is tell my story within it and simultaneously exist in it and build beyond it. I think that to think of things in ways that's kind of like unfathomable, is this the way to say it? Unfathomable? Unfathomable. Yeah. That's definitely, that's not a spelling word. That's a pretty easy one to spell, but saying word, yes. So I'm figuring it out. And that's it. I got to get my stuff done. Let me go ahead and turn this off, turn my heater back on because it makes noise if I'm making a video, and get to things. All right, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you later. Bye.